Hey, special educators. Welcome to Teach, Taskbox, Inspire, the podcast dedicated to making your job as a special education teacher easier by making your instruction more fun for you and your students. Inside each episode, you'll learn how to get the most use out of your task boxes in the classroom. I'm your host, Lisa Holiday from Chalkboard Superhero, a veteran special education teacher passionate about empowering you with purposeful teaching strategies, helpful tips and tricks, and other classroom management tools that will help you thrive in your role. Let's get started with today's episode. Hey there, special educators, and welcome back to another episode of Teach, Taskbox, Inspire. I'm your host, Lisa Holiday, and today we're tackling a challenge that most teachers have faced at some point: work refusal. You know what I'm talking about. The one student, no matter what you do, just refuses to do any of their work. It can be so confusing and frustrating and sometimes downright exhausting. But don't worry, work refusal won't win because we've got strategies to help turn this situation around. Number one, first and foremost, we got to figure out the why. Why is a student refusing to work? 9 times out of 10, it's not just because the student's being difficult and they want to act like that. In fact, there's so many reasons the student might refuse to engage with their work. Here are a few possibilities. Number one, their lack of motivation. Sometimes students just don't see the value in what they're doing. School is not important. And if you do a little bit of digging, sometimes in the household, school is just not top priority. Number two, task difficulty. So the work might be too hard, or maybe it's too easy and they've totally checked out. Number three, personal issues. So distractions from home or social issues can really be affecting their ability to focus. Maybe something happened at lunch and they don't want to work. Maybe they had a fire over the weekend and they cannot concentrate on Monday. Number four, fear of failure. They are afraid of making mistakes, especially in front of their classmates. So I had a student the other day who came in, heard we were having a quiz, absolutely tore up his paper and put it in the recycling bin. I just ignored that behavior and continued on with the quiz. I started reading the quiz aloud. Again, these are students I kind of pull separate to another classroom. And he heard the questions and was answering them out loud. So he knew the answers. So he went into the recycling bin, grabbed his paper, and started making the choices. So he was just afraid of failing this quiz, but he knew all the answers. And which brings me to my last one, which is a lack of confidence. So maybe they just don't understand the material or feel like they can't do it correctly. Oftentimes when we're, especially in the inclusion classroom, we are trying to bridge a gap that is far too wide to even try to make a jump. And a lot of times they just don't understand the material. So having that lack of confidence could be the reason why they're refusing to do their work. Once we really understand kind of the root of the cause, it can become so much easier to kind of address it. So let's dive into some ways that we can actually help. So number one, building those student-teacher relationships. I know. We hear this all of the time, but honestly, it works. You have to take the time out to really get to know that one student. What are their interests? What do they struggle with? When a student knows you care, it really can make all the difference. So chipping away, trying to really get to know them, even if they are really refusing any adult support, really try hard every single day. Sometimes they are throwing up hands saying, I don't want to hear that you like video games too, but that sticks in their mind. And then the next day they might have a memory that they want to share with you. Number two, offer choices. Now, guys, this is so simple, but it really does go a long way. And this doesn't mean that you have to kind of let them pick whatever they want to do, whenever they want to do it. But really offering small choices can increase that buy-in, especially if they're refusing to do nothing in the beginning. Let's get them to do something. So maybe they choose which problem to tackle first or what kind of pencil to use. And you might think, well, of course they have that choice. Maybe they don't know that. So offering the choice verbally all of the time, okay, do you want to use the crayon or the pencil? There is not a yes or no answer like, you're going to do this work. No, I don't want to. If you say, we're doing this work, but what do you want to use, a pencil or a pen? They might be inclined to say, okay, I want to use the pen. Or if you say, do you want to start with number 1 or start with number 10? They might be inclined to choose one of those rather than giving them that open-ended yes or no answer. All right, number 3, setting clear, achievable goals. Sometimes kids just refuse work because they feel overwhelmed. They oftentimes will look at a piece of paper and it has so many words on it and they just kind of break down like, no, I don't want to do this. They'll rip up the paper. They'll throw it on the floor. They'll put all their materials in their desk. They do not want to work on this assignment. But sometimes if you just take one problem and maybe write it on a whiteboard, they only see one problem at a time and they don't feel so overwhelmed. So celebrating those small victories too will boost their confidence and keep them motivating. So let's say, each step is that little victory. Number 4 is using positive reinforcement. When you notice a student is trying, even in the smallest way, praise them. Sometimes it's not about finishing the work. It's about recognizing the effort that they put in. So saying something like, I'm really proud of you for giving this a try, Johnny, can really motivate a student far more than you'd think. Catch those small moments to build an effort and build from there. Number 5, incorporate their interests. So if a student's into video games, try to incorporate those elements into your lessons. If they love sports, use those sports-related examples. It's amazing how connecting their work to what they're passionate about can increase their engagement. I've found that simply using students' favorite athletes or celebrities in word problems can make a world of difference. So for example, I had to pull one of my students the other day to progress monitor some of his math goals, and he just had to do 5 subtraction problems. But I didn't have the paper with me, and I just had to think of them off the cuff, and I was using his name and a few of his other friends' name. I know he really loves Sonic, so I used Sonic in the word problem. This gets them to answer the question and be super engaged. Did they want to come to the back table with me? No. Did they want to do math right that moment? No. But did they want to hear about them using Sonic? You betcha. They were like, oh, that's cool that you're using my friend's name and my name. He was so excited to leave me and tell his friend about it. All right, number 6, offer support. Sometimes work refusal is just a cry for help. The student might not understand the material and needs extra support. So teach them that it's okay to ask for help. It's a strength, not a weakness, to kind of say, hey, I have no idea what's going on. We want to encourage that growth mindset. You can offer tutoring or extra accommodations or just kind of be available there to answer their questions. Number 7, create a safe environment for these students. One of the most important things you can do is make your classroom a calm and safe place where mistakes are okay. And some students are terrified of getting things wrong, and that fear can stop them from trying. When they feel like it's okay to make mistakes, they'll be more willing to take risks and engage in the work. You really want to allow for them to have a place to kind of be themselves, open up, and tell you things. Number 8, you want to check in regularly. So having one-on-one or small group check-ins can give you a better understanding of kind of why students aren't engaging. Why are they refusing to do work? So sometimes these simple check-ins can show them that you care and that you're there to help. I like doing these in the morning. During our homeroom, I have 10 to 15 minutes while they're eating breakfast or just getting settled or doing their work where I will go and touch base with every one of my students. What did you do this weekend? Did you get your homework done? How is your dog doing? So being able to take that little time to check in with them goes a long, long way. Number 9, involve parents. You guys, I am a parent of a special needs child. Involve us. If work refusal is linked to something happening outside of school, involving parents can be essential. So collaboration between home and school is powerful. You never know what's going on at home. Maybe it was a long weekend and they were out of town. Maybe their cat just died and they're going to be super depressed all week. You never know. So if everyone is on the same page, you can kind of work together to support the student and really hope to resolve some of those outside challenges. And the last one I'm going to leave you with is to reflect and adapt. We want to be willing to do this because teaching is never a one-size-fits-all. What works for one student might not work for another, and that's okay, especially from year to year. Learn to lean on your team, whether it's your school psychologist or behavior interventionist or even like your BFF teacher. Don't feel like you have to manage everything on your own. If you have a student, especially if it's just one huge red flag student that's absolutely refusing to do work, ask for help. Because guess what? Dealing with work refusal can be tough, but it's also an opportunity to kind of strengthen your connection with that student and help them overcome some obstacles by understanding why they're refusing. Building those strong relationships and trying out different strategies, you can totally turn this challenge into an opportunity for growth for you and the student. Remember, teaching isn't just about delivering the simple curriculum. We really want to guide students through their struggles. So stay patient, celebrate those small wins, and know you're making a difference every step of the way. Thanks for joining me on this episode of Teach, Task Box, Inspire. Don't forget to subscribe and share this podcast with fellow teachers. Until next time, guys, bye-bye. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Teach, Task Box, Inspire. I hope you've gained some tips and motivation to fuel your week ahead. If you're ready to explore more strategies for empowering your students as independent learners, be sure to dive into my free training at chalkboardsuperhero.com/training. And don't keep all this knowledge to yourself. Share this episode with your special education teacher friends who could use some motivation and inspiration. One more thing before you go. If you're finding this podcast helpful and want to show support, head to Apple Podcasts and leave your rating and review. Until next time, keep teaching, task boxing, and inspiring.